My name is Dan Dangerman. I used to be a detective, Detective Dan Dangerman. I was a damn good cop who fought the damn good fight for my city, but that all changed. I used to care, do things that mattered. But now look at me, a barely functioning alcoholic with a barely functioning cyborg arm who watches barely functioning children's movies. So I did what any washed up alcoholic cyborg detective would do in my situation. Set up a YouTube channel. Welcome to this episode of Cold Hard Complaints. Today I've decided to celebrate the holiday by dressing up as a drunken cyborg detective. Yeah! Today I've decided to cover a movie that goes over an upcoming holiday, the Day of the Dead. This is a movie I wanted to discuss since before I created this channel. In fact, you could say this movie is one of the reasons I created my channel. The 2014 3D animated film Book of Life is awful. Very, very awful. I'm gonna take off the robot arm now because I think you get the joke, but you know. I'm a robot man! Whatever. I went and saw this movie in theaters after watching the trailer with my girlfriend and thinking, you know what, that looks like a pretty fun movie. The art style is interesting, it covers a holiday we don't really hear about that much, and it has Guillermo del Toro as a producer. What could go wrong? It can't be that bad, right? Now to put into context how bad this was, my girlfriend and I get in a lot of arguments about movies like this. She'll defend them for being fun and cute, while I'll tear into them for lame jokes, plot holes, and lame characters. But this time around, she hated it as much as I did. That does not happen. We both could not stand this movie, and yet when I got home afterwards to check the Rotten Tomatoes score to see if it reflected how bad it was, I got this. What the fuck? Now, Rotten Tomatoes and the tomato meter can be a bit skewed at times with average movies, because some movies get boosted up because people give it a 7 or an 8, while movies that are consistently given 6s or 5s are shoved way, way down. But it's ridiculous to me that a movie this inept can be given a pass. Now before I go any further, I'm going to be delving into full spoilers on this movie, so if you want to avoid spoilers, you should avoid this video. But I also recommend you avoid this movie, so you know, live your life the way you want to live it. Onwards. Gonna need some more of this. I don't drink, but I'm gonna pretend to. Whoa! The Book of Life is a story that is centered around 3 kids. Manolo, who is voiced by Diego Luna, Maria, voiced by Zoe Saldana, and Joaquin, voiced by Channing Tatum. The gods, Sebulba and La Muerta, spy the children playing on the Day of the Dead and make a wager on which one of the boys will marry their friend Maria. Sebulba chooses the courageous Joaquin, and La Muerta the sensitive Manolo. If Sebulba wins, he becomes the Lord of the Land of the Remembered, the festive section of the underworld, instead of his current station as the ruler of the dreary Land of the Forgotten. But if La Muerta wins, Sebulba has to stop being a douchebag. Soon after, Maria gets sent away by her father, the general of the city guard, after seeing some pigs and deciding that butcher's livelihood is far less important than me saving these disgusting animals and then rampaging through the town and nearly killing my father. I mean, no big deal, right? Then flash forward a few years and Manolo has reluctantly become a bullfighter, following in his family's tradition even though all he really wants to do is be a singer, a performer, a musician, while Joaquin has been trained by Maria's father to become a hero who protects villages from bandits. On the day of Manolo's first bullfight, Maria returns to town and is watching with Joaquin as Manolo wows them all with his bullfighting prowess. But when it comes to the end, he refuses to kill the bull because he doesn't think it's right, much to Maria's joy and the crowd's displeasure. From there, Joaquin and Manolo try various things to try to woo Maria even though she is pretty obviously leaning towards Manolo, but is being pressured by her father to marry Joaquin so that he will stay in the village to protect them from bandits. Because apparently people in the army can choose where they stay if they're married? I don't know what the point of this is, whatever. That night, Manolo brings Maria out to a hill to confess his love. But Sebulba sends his snake staff to fake kill Maria, which then brings Manolo to ask Sebulba for death. Sebulba gladly agrees and kills him, sending him to the Land of the Remembered, where he then quickly realizes Maria is not actually dead and that he's been played because he's a fucking idiot. Because Manolo dies, Sebulba wins the bet and becomes the Lord of the Land of the Remembered, while La Muerta becomes the ruler of the dreary Land of the Forgotten. So Manolo goes on a grand adventure with his mother and his grandfather to the land of the— oh wait, never mind, they made it. It took like 10 minutes to go on a journey that no one's ever accomplished before. Yeah, whatever. Nice tension. I love how that was built up and then just kind of happened. Well, they go to the Land of the Forgotten and inform La Muerta that Sebulba cheated, which she didn't know. Wait, how did she not know? If she knows that she lost, she must know Manolo is dead. So, I mean, she had to wonder how he died, right? I mean, how did that not cross her mind? There are members of Manolo's family that comment on things that happened to him in the previous days, so the dead can see what happens in the land of the living. Also, Maria hasn't even married Joaquin, so she hasn't even lost yet. Oh, okay, let's just finish this plot section. Manolo is given a task to face all the bulls his family's ever killed. He sings a song and wins. He's back to life as his big bandit that killed Joaquin's father comes to town to take a magical medal that Sebulba gave him way back when he was a child to make him invincible. They beat him, Manolo and Maria get fucking married, the end. Now with that summary, there are a few problems you could see with the story, but it's not really that bad. A lot of aspects in that story have been done before, but if you execute it right, everything should be fine, right? Which brings me to why this movie is so terrible and why I'm making a video on it. The execution is awful, just terrible. Watching this movie and seeing all the squandered potential was just sickening. From the overabundance of toilet humor in this movie to the soundtrack to the pacing, there were just so many notes I have about this film. So to start this off, I want to tackle the music. For some reason, they thought it was a good idea to have characters sing popular modern songs instead of singing original. There was one original song that I remember near the end, and it did not leave that much of an impression on me. I know it exists, but that's about it. There's this montage early on where they transition the characters from children to adults, and during it they decided to play I Will Wait by Mumford & Sons that starts out with kids singing it that just feels like my ears are being stabbed. And then it moves into bland adults singing it while they play it in a Latinized way to play it off like it fits in the movie. Later on, Manolo plays Creep by Radiohead, which could not have felt more out of place, and then they toss in an Elvis song just for good measure. This felt like something some executives thought was a great idea because the kids will remember hearing those songs on the radio. It felt like the laziest option available. Want to make something new and original? Nah, let's just pay to use 30 seconds of a pop song and get our voice actors to half-heartedly sing it. The pacing in this movie is off the walls terrible. When I was watching it at the theater, I was asking myself if it was being played at 1.5 speed. Like, to start it out, I thought they were doing this because they felt like they had a lot to introduce, and then slow down later when you get to the meat of the story. But it never did, it just kept going fast. Now, having a fast pace is fine. I mean, a movie that came out the same year that I absolutely love is the Lego Movie, and that movie moved at a crazy pace. But with the Lego Movie, it all worked as part of a style. The comedy was fast, with a lot of sight gags and quick jokes that had incredible flow to it. But with The Book of Life, it has a far more conventional story and deals with love and death. So to me, having a fast, frantic pace undercuts a lot of the emotion that can be had in that story. To go back to it being 1.5 speed, that really is the best way to describe it. There are moments in this movie that are just given no time to marinate. The perfect example of this is when Manolo is in the land of the remembered and he meets his mother who passed away when he was a child, which they establish near the beginning of the movie. And they give it a good 20 seconds before the story decides, this moment's gone on long enough, it's time to get back to the story. That's it? The main character sees his dead mother after all these years and all we get is, "Hi Mom, I love you. I became a bullfighter like you wanted." "Oh, my son! Wait, a bullfighter? Your father wanted that for you." "Okay, I gotta go find my not girlfriend now, so chop chop, let's go Mom." These moments need time and to be given weight so that they actually connect with the audience and leave an imprint. This was a storyline hinted at the beginning and the payoff is just this? That is terrible execution. What makes this whole thing even worse to me is that there's a whole layer to this movie that I haven't even mentioned. The delinquent kids in the beginning could go to a museum to be told this story. Now I understand that they're using this as a framing device for the story, much like the child and the grandpa in The Princess Bride, one of my favorite movies. This is their excuse for using wooden puppets as their character designs. The kids are meant to be an exposition dump to inform American children what the Day of the Dead is and who Zaboba, La Muerta, and the Candlemaker are. But all of these concepts, every single one, are repeatedly explained in the movie. There are different plot details that are said 2 to 3 times.
Land of the Remembered, a festive and magical place. The land of the Remembered was vibrant and joyous. It was more festive.
You see, as long as someone alive remembers you, you get to live in the land of the Remembered.
Why must I rule a bleak wasteland while you enjoy the endless fiesta in the land of the remembered?
This movie thinks so little of its audience. It may be a kids movie, but it absolutely does not trust kids to handle or understand anything it's talking about. I mean, this year we had Zootopia, which trusted kids to understand the complexity of racism, which it pulled off excellently, has been praised for its ability to do so. I mentioned the Lego Movie already, but the mature subject about creativity that it tackles is so refreshing. Good kids movies trust their audience and don't think that just because they're kids that they're stupid. I mean, as a quick idea of how to improve it, remove everything with the children in it. Maybe open with The Book of Life, opening up with some narration, presenting the story in that way. Like it's a story being read to the audience directly, not an in-movie surrogate for the audience. All the current intro does is build up a pointless layer between the viewer and the story. Then with that time you save, maybe devote a little more attention to the story between Manolo and his mother. See what their relationship is like before she passed away so that we understand it, we build a connection with them, and we feel the loss with them when she passes away. And then when she's brought back, we feel that much more connection and joy to see that character return. Because at that point we understand what it means for Manolo. We felt that loss, we understand that pain, and we see her come back. That's emotion, that's storytelling. Something I'm really bugged about whenever I see other people's thoughts on this movie is that people talk about how this film is different in the way that it shows death, and that for a kids movie to have a topic like death is so prominently featured is fucking insane. But death is in a lot of kids movies. I mean, going back to Bambi, you have death. The Lion King has a large chunk of it devoted to death and loss. But what I think people mean when they refer to this movie like that is that Manolo dies. The main character dies, or more appropriately, he asks to be killed. Now, the handling of death itself is laughably inconsistent because there are times early on when young Manolo talks about how he misses his mother, and it's such a pain to have that loss, but he knows that as long as you remember them, they're really there in your heart. Contrast that to how Manolo handles Maria dying by dying himself. And then there's when Manolo's father dies and he just never really acknowledges it. Like, he's told when he's fighting a bull and distracted, so I didn't expect an immediate reaction, a whole tear-jerky scene then. But afterwards, they never gave him a moment for his father and also his grandmother, whose death has been played off for a laugh, to sink in. The remainder of his living family has died in one day, but all he can think about is this girl who has been gone for years and how he only spent maybe a half hour with. That is just... what? Then Manolo is given an undo on his death, which kind of trivializes life and death. Manolo basically committed suicide for a girl he hasn't had a meaningful adult conversation with, and just basically loves because they were kids together. But he is given his life back because even though he asked to die, it was all a trick. You asked to die. You gave up your life. You do not get a redo on that. And to present like he can just get out of that seems like an idiotic message to send to children. The only redeeming quality that this movie has is its animation, which in style is very interesting and different, and I like that. But this doesn't get a pass from me either, because even though these models and backgrounds look great, the camera movement and the framing drag it back down a bit. It's still far above average, but there are studios doing much more inventive things. Like even before this movie came out, there was the Lego movie, which is the third time I've mentioned that. Monsters University visually blew this out of the water. There's Wreck-It Ralph or How to Train Your Dragon 2. So it's good, but it's not better than the competition. And I can't give a movie with animation like this a pass just because it's not a Disney movie or it's not a DreamWorks movie. You have to live up to your competition, and it just doesn't. The Book of Life is not the Minions, and it's not Freebird, so congratulations, you're not the worst thing in existence. It felt like there was some originality and passion to this project, and it had a lot of potential. But as a total movie, it's a failure to me. That's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm talking about this movie. It is so painfully below average when it could have been so much more. Demand better from your movies, and don't lower your expectations just because something is a children's film. And do not watch this waste of a movie. Thank you for watching this episode of Cold Hard Complaints. I will see you in the next time I see you, or whatever. Bye.
We've been doing this for so long, and yet it's come to this. We feel you've been treating us wrong, yet you sit there and insist. No, you two are great. Why don't you just wait? Just know this, there is no hate, but let me translate. We wish you the best of luck, but you guys are a bunch of schmucks. Playing with guys was a real crime. We quit, for real this time.
A lot of people are really gonna dodge a bullet with that movie, unlike my wife, who couldn't dodge a bullet when it went straight to her brain. Someday I'll find the killer. After I make some more YouTube videos, who knows? I'm a good cop, goddammit.